February 5th, 2022. Dear Diary. Were I to sprout wings and soar above the sky, even if to only meet the sun's burning touch, or if I could crawl and clamber my way into hell's deepest crevice to freeze on the everlasting ice, escape of the pity of my canvas and the disdain of its frame, I fear, is fantasy. How perfect their taunting duplicity! As one soothes, the other jeers. And tonight I return not only to cross yet another name out of my stamp card, but also with the dry oil of streaked tears. Do you remember the doctor from last week? Perhaps he was a more eligible bachelor than impressions let on. Yes, looking back now, he wasn't that bad. After all, he has been successful over the years, his fame still extending into many public high school classrooms, which is quite a feat these days. And it's not often you see a man remove his top hat for a lady anymore. Though, I remember when Leonardo would bow to my vision, and how he kissed the hand of my muse. Since the moment I was given my eyes, I've longed for a love so deep. No, truth be told, under his waistcoat, Shelley's doctor is still an arrogant man split between the monsters within. I mustn't let myself forget the way it seemed that he would snub everyone but Oliver. In fact, it felt as if even that respect was thin, settled only on the fact that they shared an era and time in Hollywood. Poor twist, to have such a friend happily point out their own brightening shine while dulling your own. And do not let slide the doctor's deep hatred for the subject of censoring, how swiftly he switched from enlightenment to aggression. Indeed, there was no romanticism to be had there. Somehow, though, tonight's date was worse still. At first I thought maybe I misinterpreted the setup. They wore bright blue boxy glasses perched on their small pointed nose, which framed glassy red webbed eyes and clashed with the green beret that sat atop long greasy hair. I noticed also that the sheer scarf around their neck, tucked neatly under an off-white jacket collar, glinted with the colors of a broken rainbow, split and patterned into odd geometric shapes. In that moment I felt the first sparks of excitement ignite within. Pablo was no Leo, but I thought perhaps companionship might not be too unrealistic for a product of early surrealism. But then they opened their mouth, and by contrast I was reminded of how poorly my nights with an Auguste Rodin went. It had gone exactly as I feared it would, and lasted longer than it should have. On one hand, what did I expect of a man who spends his centuries brooding? On the other, can you blame me for wanting to enjoy the interest of a hunk whose bronze muscles could have been chiseled? No marble could ever. Nothing was worse than those wretched days spent with Cecilia, though. As helpful as my stretched canvas meant to be, the advice to seek out another one of Da Vinci's loves was as horrid as when Géricault painted deformed levitating horses. Only 14 years older than me, the lady and her nauseating ermine were miserable to be around, and by far my worst relationship. She's beautiful, indeed, but years of constant nagging that she was Leo's original, his favorite? Well, even my portrait's frame agreed that I deserved better. Actually, I think the exact phrasing was more along the lines of, "Tarnished by an older model I will not be." But close enough. But then she was beautiful. And ours was a shared bond over a connection with our Maker who we could never have for ourselves. Doomed to live without and beyond him, fame doesn't seem as enticing a promise as it once was. When he was still stroking me into existence, brushing my cheeks and hair with his elegant touch. That, at least, she understood. Now look how far I've fallen, from gem of the Renaissance, to a speed-dating old maid. Tonight's date highlighted the difference starkly. They hailed from a renovated Lutheran church in Denver, Colorado, and was created by a name new to my ears, Okuda San Miguel. It's not so much the centuries of age difference that bothers me, but something they said.
You've done well to acclimate to the shifting interests of the world, but aren't you worried about when your time will end? There's so much new stuff always coming out. So many new books, for example. Why go back? Why read about her from the past, when there's so much now, so much present to wonder about?
It was the way they leaned back, opening the floor for my rebuttal. The time and care they put into lighting their smoke, allowing me the opportunity to give my defense. They didn't mean anything by it. I truly think they thought they were just making conversation. I watched as they puffed their cherry to life before continuing.
That's why I'm so excited to meet you, Mona. I'm so glad the agency set us up. Don't you see how perfect this is?
He took another long drag and sat forward, leveling his red puffy eyes with my own and drawing nearer his earthy, herbal scent.
Our relationship could be beneficial to us both, and with time, who knows what could spark between us? You have a great sense of humor. I can already tell that by how the public constantly modifies you. But in our world, my youth will keep you relevant, and your status will elevate mine. It's a win-win. What do you think? Actually, I don't need an answer right now, just think about it.
I left then. I couldn't bear to watch any more of the trailing tail of their smoke swirl in the wind as they gestured widely with their hands. And as I strode back to my casing on the wall, furiously pawing at my watery eyes, I thought about how it's true. I do enjoy having morphed through time. I've been redrawn with masks and tattoos, posing with a cellular phone in hand and a 2-finger peace sign with my other, messy hair and solo cups. How surreal it has been to be adored through the ages. But how fortunate have I been to do so? How many others in my own building live in the shadow my brilliant shine casts? Indeed, many say I am the main attraction of this long winding wing. Especially when so few seem to understand what it is to be great? To be made by the greatest? How it does get lonely. Day by day I am separated from my admirers by glass and 10 paces. I exist through the ages with my only constants being you, my overly optimistic cloth on which I spend my days smiling, and my frame, who is permanently bitter of my yearning for more. I know it's their opinion that I should exemplify every definition of honored, and that my search for company is akin to my spitting on my own pedestal. Secretly at times I long for when we three used to live in harmony. But it's been years since then. And in those years I remember my own arrogance, the falsehood of my friendship. How, in fact, I see now the parallels of who I used to be reflected in the doctor. Even the farce between Cecilia and I was born of our insurmountable competitive natures. And the man known for his deep, unyielding train of thought is no less trapped by the stone posture of his own existence than those of the 1821 Derby. And at last I wonder if we are all stuck in such a way. I wonder if I used to be like the San Miguel tonight. I've never thought about it before, honestly, I've never cared. But I do wonder now how the medieval art felt towards me, when I was first created. Leo cared for me with the love he felt for my human counterpart instilled within my cracking paint. I feel it still, in every minuscule drop he applied to my skin, and it makes me burst with a pride that would make my frame think I've finally returned to my senses. But it also echoes that which I have not yet found for myself. And ages it has been. Had I known how alone eternity would feel. Or is the question to be centered around how much more of eternity do I have left? Much to my frame's demise, I believe now that San Miguel was right about one thing. My ability to adapt to the pleasures of art audiences around the earth has kept me alive. The white Lombardy poplar panel that bears me has never known discouragement since the day of its creation. It has always known even before Leo's first touch that its possibilities were endless. But myself? I wonder now, dear diary, how much longer until classical art like my own Renaissance self is considered irrelevant, when, as the inquiry pressed, there is a silent growing contest between my kind and the never-ending torrent of the brand new. Reflectively, M. Lisa.